everyone, my name is Renee. Welcome back to my channel, Created by Renee. Today we are going to get back into the paper mache swing with an easy project you can do. As you may have noted from the title, today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make a paper mache paperweight. Yes, you can make a fun, functional paperweight in paper mache. And since Valentine's Day is in spitting distance at the time this video is going live, we're going to get all festive and we're going to use hearts as our theme. While we're on the subject of hearts, I thought I'd do some research so I could share where the heart shape originated. I ended up opening Pandora's box. Turns out there are numerous theories on how this shape came to symbolize love, romance, and general emotion. Too many to share in a quick intro, so what I'll do is paste some links in the description for those who are curious. But stick around to the end of the video for a fun fact about love. Okay, we swerved all the way to the right. Let's get back on track here. To be clear, this project will work great for a myriad of shapes and ideas, not just hearts. If you can sculpt it palm size, you're golden. Once you know this wisdom of the ages, it's a great jump off point for so many projects. You ready? First, let's talk supplies. Be sure to check out the description for details, including some links. You will need sand, some masking tape, some small river stones, and some sandwich bags. You can generally get these locally cheaper than if you order them, but just in case, I provided links for those who need them. To get started, let's fill these sandwich bags about halfway full of sand. In this video, I'm going to do 5 paperweights just to show you some different examples, different styles and finishes that you can create. Now that all the bags have sand, we're going to add river rocks. The rocks are meant to add weight to each piece, and I'm honestly just guesstimating how much to put into each bag. Freeze. This is the end result I'm going for on the right. This is the original version of the project that I created about a year ago. And I will admit that when I tried to tape these up this time, I was going a little weird and wonky with it. I couldn't get the hang of it again. It's been a minute since I taped these. So the point is they don't have to be perfect triangles. You're taping to create triangles so that you can sculpt pulp over each of these pieces. But it depends on if you're making hearts or whatever shape you're making. You just sort of make it the general shape. Okay, and I made these different sizes for experimentation purposes. Why did I throw that down like, ugh? And now it's time for paper pulp. If you haven't yet seen my video demonstrating how to create your own batch of pulp, I will link it here. Also, handy to have one of these inexpensive flexible cutting boards because they're great for resting your pulp pieces on while they're drying with minimal sticking. And our next step, as you can see, is to wrap each shape in paper mache pulp. Be sure to knead the pulp before you start wrapping it around the piece so that it adheres better and it's easier to mold and blend together once it's covering the shape. At this stage, you're only going to be concerned with the general shape, not details. This is where paper mache pulp differs from clay. Because of its water content, you can't really work in any details until it's started to dry and shrink. They won't hold. It's just an exercise in futility if you try to put any details in at this stage. So just trust the process. So I'm making hearts in different shapes and sizes, giving them a little bit different personalities so you can maybe get some inspiration and ideas for your own projects. Right now I'm starting to smooth the pulp a little bit, but this is kind of the extent of what I can do at this stage is to cover and smooth. Beyond that, you're just going to need to be patient and let it dry for a day or so before you can start working in additional details. Okay, so I'm not sure whether it's evident, whether you can tell in the video the difference in the texture and the dryness, but the front is dry to the touch but still soft. The back, however, is still pretty damp and tacky, and if you rub your finger across it, some of the pulp will likely come off, and so it's still sticky and damp, and you need to sort of turn it over so that it can have a chance to dry on this side as well. Okay, this might seem crazy and counterintuitive, but next I'm going to come in with my spray bottle, and they're dry to the touch on the outside. But what I'm doing is spritzing them with water to soften them back up and make them more pliable for me to be able to sculpt them and start doing details. Now for like fine details like lines and creases and like if I were doing a face, I would probably not let them dry this long. I would probably start working in details while they were still a little bit damper than this. But for this, because it's chunky shapes and they're pretty smooth, they're not going to have a lot of fine details. I'm not concerned with that. Now you can see that these are a little bit drier and smoother, and they are ready for some details. For my first one, I'm going to use a random sculpting tool I have laying around the studio to create an emoji-inspired smiley face heart. Again, I'm spritzing water to help smooth the details. Next, I'm going to layer some brown paper over one of the hearts and do sort of a decoupage effect on the other one. So I'm going to rip up some brown paper, make some strips, and then I'll use those to cover one of these hearts. For this one, I'm just going to choose some pretty paper from my scrapbook stash to cover it decoupage style. Let's use the map paper. And just like the brown paper, I'm going to rip this paper into strips. To stick these papers to the heart shapes, I will be using my traditional glue and water mixture, which is basically just those two ingredients mixed to the consistency of milk. Now, I haven't created a video yet on the strip method, which is another basic paper mache method, but that is in the works, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications. In the meantime, here's a quick close-up of how I dip the paper strips into the glue mixture and then use my 2 fingers to remove the excess before adhering it to the forms. Fun fact, I used to do that with chopsticks until I decided my fingers did actually work better for that. Now I'm completely covering this piece with the brown paper and then smoothing it and moving on to the next heart. For this heart, since the scrap paper is the actual end embellishment for the surface, I'm going to be taking more care with how I'm layering it and positioning it onto the heart so that it looks nice. And I'm making sure to completely cover this piece with that scrapbook paper. And I'm actually going to go ahead and do another heart like this in a different scrap paper, but for the sake of this not being an hour-long video, I'm going to skip that since you now know how to do that. Now here we have all 5 hearts. They're all pretty much dry and ready for the next step. Here is the map heart that I just demonstrated, and here's the other scrap heart using a different type of paper. So let's start with the smiley face heart. First, I'm going to use some of my sandpaper stash to buff off some of the rough parts. Let's be real, I usually like a very smooth, highly refined surface on my paper mache pieces, but I intentionally design these pieces so that they be fine without the use of heavy power tools, any of that. And with 2 steps, a coat of pink paint, and then some details, this piece is done. Next, I'm going to bring in some gloss Mod Podge and add a couple of coats to my decoupage map heart, and it's done. To finish it off, I wanted to add a map pin that I could put a little note on, but since I didn't have that, I used a T-pin, put a ribbon through it, and added the word "you" to it. I think the message I had in mind is my heart is wherever you are. Next, we have this upright heart that stands up on its side that I'm going to paint in white acrylic. Hey, if you're getting anything out of this video, would you please take a moment to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel and even hit the bell button for notifications. Next, I'm going to take this piece of mirrored cardstock that I got from my local craft store. I'm going to chop it into varying size strips. They don't need to be perfect. In fact, it's better if they're not perfect. And just doing a bunch of them, just chopping different sizes. But if you're using a chopper like this, please watch your fingers. It's not a race. Just be careful. Next, I'm going to take my scissors and cut those strips into little random assorted size pieces in different shapes, some square, some triangle, some, what's that thing called? My nephew told me the other day, what is it, rhombus? It's been too long since I've been in school. Anyway, here is a bunch of pieces that I have chopped of my mirrored cardstock, and check it out. How fun is this? Just brush on a little white glue and then start adding pieces. And for the final heart, I've painted it with a coat of acrylic paint, and now I'm going to coat it with basic white glue. And we're just making sure to coat all the sides, and you know what it is. I felt like this was fitting considering Valentine's Day, so. And it's time for the reveal. Y'all, if you watched this far, I really appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you like and subscribe. Please be sure to leave me some comments below. Tell me what you thought of this project. Maybe you have a variation on it that you'd like to share. I'd love to hear it. And I will see you next time. Bye. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I almost cheated you out of your fun fact. So here it is. The highest form of love is agape love, which is an unconditional love, the highest form of love, charity, and the love of God for man and man for God. It embraces a universal, unconditional love that transcends and persists regardless of circumstance. It comes out of a pure heart and of good conscience and of faith unfeigned. It goes beyond just the emotions to the extent of seeking the best for others. And that's your fun fact. Go out, spread some agape now that you know what it is, and I'll see you next time.